Prepare to delve into the terrifying depths of prehistory, where a monstrous predator ruled the ancient seas, with jaws capable of crushing bone and a size that dwarfed even the largest great white shark. This extinct behemoth will make you grateful it's no longer roaming the oceans. Get ready to face your fears and discover the chilling truth about this prehistoric nightmare.
Are cassowaries. At first glance, these flightless birds look like some sort of prehistoric turkey meets emu meets ostrich, and trust me, you want to stay as far away as possible from them. First off, they are big boys, sometimes measuring up to 6 feet 6 inches tall and can weigh up to 132 pounds. You might be thinking, well, that's not so bad, but think again, because what truly makes them dangerous is their insanely muscular legs, topped off with 5-inch claws at the ends of their feet. If they feel threatened, they will leap up and strike at their assailant with their dagger feet, causing lethal wounds to internal organs and severe blood loss. Plus, even though they can't fly, they can run at a speed of 50 kilometers an hour. So if they decide you're in trouble, it's pretty much over for you. They are one of the only species of birds that have confirmed reports of killing humans, and although the attacks are rare, they are gruesome. So just to be safe, I'd say keep your distance. Coming in at number 9 is the leopard seal. Found in the icy cold scapes of Antarctica, the leopard seal is one predator you do not want to mess with. For starters, they rank as the second highest predator in the animal kingdom in their area, fearing only the killer whale, are able to reach speeds of up to 40 kilometers an hour while swimming, and as far as we know, they are the only seal species that will actively prey on other seals. Although they tend to prefer the taste of penguins, they have been known to attack humans. In fact, explorers have on numerous occasions been the victim of a gruesome bite or even pulled under into the icy waters to their doom. And once you're dragged under hypothermic water at 40 kilometers an hour, there's not much hope left. Now, I won't lie to you, they are really cute to look at, but they just can't be trusted. Between their powerful jaws and their aggressive nature, they will almost certainly cause you extreme injury, if not death, if they feel you're getting too close. At least the good news is that most people aren't itching to get out to Antarctica anytime soon. Coming in at number 8 is the slow loris. If there's one thing that I can trust, it's to never trust a cute face in the animal kingdom. Just like bright colors, more often than not, it's a trap meant to put the victim at ease right before it kills you. In the case of the slow loris, this is spot on. Despite looking like a beanie baby, the slow loris is actually one of the most venomous mammals in the world, storing their deadly toxins in the brachial gland on the side of their elbow. They are an extremely isolated creature, so they're easily threatened, and if they feel remotely in danger, they are for sure going to bite you, first raising their arms above their head before licking the toxin from their arms and sinking their teeth into your flesh. The toxin will then begin to kill your tissue, and though many react differently, some experience intense itching, others muscle convulsions, ultimately, if it's left untreated, can be fatal. Coming in at number 7 is the Sydney funnel web spider. In general, spiders give me the heebie-jeebies. It's not so much a fear of them as just thinking about them makes me feel like they're crawling all over my skin. That being said, I am for sure afraid of the Sydney funnel web spider. Found in Australia only, within a 100-mile radius of Sydney, the good news about these things is that at least you know where you need to be worried about coming face to face with one. The bad news, however, is that its venom can quite literally kill you. Once those fangs break your skin, you have about 15 minutes before the venom starts completely overloading the body's nervous system and ends in fatality. It should be noted males are the exceptionally dangerous ones here, so you might fare better if you are facing a female, but still, I would avoid it at all costs. Now, antivenoms for the bite do exist, but like I said, you have about 15 minutes before all hell breaks loose, so you have to move fast. Coming in at number 6 are assassin bugs. It's not always powerful venom and a strong jaw that causes the most damage. Some of the things that are the most terrifying come from the tiniest little creatures. One of these terrifying things is perfectly named the assassin bug, and despite their small size, their bites pack a huge punch. When they feel threatened, they will bite into your flesh, which is apparently very painful to begin with, and with that bite comes the spread of a parasite that causes Chagas disease. This disease has the potential to shut down just about all of your major organs, and in many cases is fatal. Statistically, Chagas disease kills roughly 12,000 people a year, which is an insanely high number, especially when you compare it to some of the more obviously intimidating species out there. And if that weren't creepy enough, they also tend to enjoy going for the face or eyes of humans, particularly when we are asleep, making us nearly defenseless.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have the military mission. This story is one that is said to have come from a Peruvian ex-commando named Juan Carlos. He is said to have quite the resume that includes being able to survive for 11 days in the jungle with only his smarts and a small knife, and while that is certainly impressive, of course we are all here today to talk about his giant snake sighting. Juan Carlos explained that at one point in time when he was on a mission deep in the Amazon with his army unit, they encountered and subsequently shot a 40-foot long snake. He went on to explain that the leaders of the unit took the remains of the snake, which he now assumed are hanging on some officer's wall somewhere, which never allowed him to have the catch verified, but this story has only fueled his fire to once again encounter a snake of that size. Juan Carlos is absolutely certain that should he go out on an expedition, that he could find another giant snake that is over 30 feet, because he says he knows where the right places to look are. In our number 9 spot today, we have the TikTok sighting. According to the TikTok account Google Maps Fun, which is an account that shares fun or interesting things they found while searching the world through Google Maps, they seem to have found some sort of giant snake off of the coast of France. The TikTok, which was posted earlier this year, shows the images from Google Maps that seems to show a gigantic snake skeleton that the user states is, quote, about 30 meters long and bigger than any snake caught before. This of course has fueled many theories that this snake could in fact be a Titanoboa. The TikTok was circulated around the app and gained millions of views, and I can totally see why. It definitely would be a strange thing to suddenly come across while scouring satellite images. While everyone has been searching the Amazon, maybe the Titanoboa has just been in France all along. In our number 8 spot today, we have the fisherman. This is a legend that comes from long ago, and it starts off somewhere in a rainforest in Peru. Hundreds of years ago, there was a fisherman who was from a tribe that lived near what is now the modern-day city of Pucallpa. He journeyed by canoe deep into the jungle and went off the main river path by following a little inlet that led to a hidden lake. He usually took this path as he knew the hidden lake was a great spot to catch food. As he got to his spot, things were very quiet, and he knew that that meant he was going to catch enough food for everyone. As he looked for the best place to cast his net, however, something began to stir in the water. As the fisherman looked up, he saw a great head emerge from the water right in the center of the lake. He suddenly realized that it was the head of a serpent, but not just any serpent, as the head alone was the size of the entire fisherman's body. The snake stared at him as he panicked and threw himself to shore. As he ran away as fast as possible, he turned and looked over his shoulder, only to see the snake moving toward him through the water. The fisherman was lucky enough to escape the giant serpent that day, and he returned back to the village with the story, which has lived on throughout the hundreds of years it's been since. This is why it is said that giant snakes might just be seen in any river or inlet of the Peruvian Amazon. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Borneo sighting. This giant snake sighting is said to have come from a few years ago, as there was a disaster team that was monitoring floods above the island of Borneo. The team is said to have been flying overhead in a helicopter when the sighting happened, and one member thought what they were seeing was so surprising they even snapped a picture. It is said that this gigantic snake could have been around 100 feet in length, which is absolutely insane, and the story and the photo went on to spark some concern among those who live in the area. It is said that this sighting only confirmed what locals in the area have long been worried about, which is the existence of an ancient sea serpent. Some even believe that this serpent has the ability to transform itself into different forms of animals. For me, that one might be a stretch, but who am I to say for sure? In our number 6 spot today, we have the ranger. This is a story that is said to have come from a ranger who works near the Amazon River basin. On a day where he was patrolling around the area, he saw what he estimated to be a 45-foot long anaconda. The ranger took the people that he was telling the story to where he said he saw this gigantic snake, and they all began to try and spot it again. While they were on this search, they had a young boy with them who was from the area. As they got a little downstream from where they were initially initially looking, the boys showed them another spot that he explained that he and his uncle were when they saw a giant snake that came crashing through the weeds. The pair was of course extremely startled by this sighting and got out of there as soon as they possibly could. Since then, they've been on the lookout for the giant snake, but have yet to have another sighting.
Coming in at number 5 is the flamboyant cuttlefish. Despite the name, this might be the last thing you would want to sit down and have a cuddle with. I know, that was bad, but seriously, the cuttlefish is crazy venomous and definitely not something to mess around with. The sea creature eats a carnivorous diet, usually gunning for bony fish and crustaceans, and although they rarely come into contact with humans, we are not safe from their wrath. Interestingly, it is the only variety of cuttlefish known to be toxic, and research done by the Museum of Victoria in Melbourne shows that they might actually be just as lethal as the blue-ringed octopus. This colorful cuttlefish stores its highly toxic venom away in their razor-sharp beak hidden under their tentacles and are a master camouflager, so you will never see them coming. Thankfully, the chances of running into one are very low, so at least there is a bit of solace there. Coming in at number 4 is the belcher sea snake. Found mostly in the tropical reefs of the Indian Ocean, the belcher sea snake is considered to be the most venomous snake in the world, which is saying something because there's a lot of venomous snakes in this world. But the sea serpent's venom is 100 times more deadly than the most poisonous earthbound snakes. We're talking a few milligrams of this toxin would be enough to kill over 100 people. What's scary about these guys is because snakes require a warm temperature, being cold-blooded creatures and all, they actually live closer to the surface than many other deadly sea creatures. Plus, their bite only feels like a small prick. But make no mistake, in a matter of minutes, you can be incapacitated with symptoms like vomiting, dizziness, convulsions, hysteria, kidney failure, and even paralysis. Essentially, there's a time frame of roughly 30 minutes where if antivenom is administered, you can be saved, but otherwise, chances are not looking good for you. Next up at number 3 is the Komodo dragon. It's a pretty good rule of thumb that anything being described as a dragon is probably not the friendliest of creatures. At least it's true for the Komodo dragon. These behemoths are the largest lizards in the world, capable of growing up to 10 feet in length and usually attaining a weight of at least 300 pounds. Not only that, they look as if they're made out of steel and have just walked off the set of Jurassic Park, so that alone should tell you that they are not to be messed with. Just in case you need a bit more convincing, however, when a Komodo dragon bites into an animal or a human, they pull back the flesh with their razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws while oozing the deadly venom into the open wound. This not only leaves massive gaping holes in the flesh of its victims, but the venom they deposit inside will rapidly lower the blood pressure, prevent the blood from clotting, and send you into an almost immediate state of shock. After just a few hours, you'll be dead. Over the years, quite a few people have actually lost their lives to the giant Komodo dragon, so just do yourself a favor and leave them alone. Coming in at number 2 is the Irukandji jellyfish. So obviously, it's not news that lots of jellyfish are scary and deadly creatures, but this one might just be the worst. These deadly sea creatures are found in just about every warm ocean in the world, from Bali and the Philippines to Hawaii, even South Africa. So just about anywhere you go, you could very well be in danger. But that's not even what is so terrifying, it's their size. The jellies are only about 1 to 2 centimeters in size, which may sound comforting, but think again. It's actually their small stature that makes them so dangerous, because it's nearly impossible to spot one near you, and the sting is so mild you'll barely feel it. But once their tendrils touch you, it only takes between 5 to 45 minutes to develop incredibly scary symptoms, starting with body aches all over, developing into cramping muscles, chest pain, nausea, and trouble breathing, and lastly, fatal brain hemorrhage. These inconspicuous jellies send 50 to 100 people to the hospital each year and are definitely one of the scariest things out there. And last up today in our number 1 spot are freshwater snails. While there are many species of freshwater snails that are completely harmless, if not beneficial, there are some out there that can cause irreversible damage. But unlike anything else on this list, freshwater snails aren't dangerous because they're going to attack you or bite you or cause organ failure necessarily. Instead, the reason they are to be feared is that they are hosts of a lethal parasitic flatworm called trematodes. Trematodes nematodes cause what is called schistosomiasis, and when us humans come into contact with fresh water where the parasites live, it causes a whole slew of issues from rashes and digestive problems to infertility and even cancer. But what's the actual risk? Well, shockingly, it is worse than anything on the list. In terms of impact, there is only one parasitic disease more devastating, and that's malaria. Still, this one is nothing to scoff at, as it usually takes the lives of between 20,000 to 200,000 people a year. The good news is that the symptoms can be treated, of course, by chemotherapy, but I mean, it is still a brutal disease caused by an incredibly inconspicuous little creature and causes more deaths than just about any other animal on the planet right now.
In our number 5 spot today, we have the huntsman. This story starts off many years ago and it takes place in Peru. It is said that here a local huntsman went into the jungle in search of some game to feed his family. As he was on the hunt for food, the weather began to change and suddenly the sky began to get darker. He started a fire, but upon doing so, it is said that he felt the earth begin to shake, sort of like a small earthquake. This led to him putting out the fire. The following day, he was cutting through thick areas of the forest when he struck a large ancient tree trunk that he said was about 60 meters tall and blocking his path. At the base of this trunk, however, he then noticed a deer just standing there, which is obviously odd. As the hunter began to walk towards the deer, it suddenly disappeared into the base of the trunk. This is when the hunter suddenly understood that this is no tree. The trunk is the body of a giant serpent, and at the base there is a gigantic gaping mouth that is attached to a head that has red glowing eyes and horn-like ears. The hunter slowly backed away, realizing that the earth rumbling he felt the night before was likely the serpent being startled at the lighting of the fire. He evaded death because although he mistakenly struck the giant snake, it thankfully hadn't noticed, and without the deer there, he possibly wouldn't have even realized what was really going on. The huntsman was able to make it out of there and was sure to pass the story on when he returned home. This is the story or the legend of the Sasha Mama, which has been around for centuries. Many believe that the tales of this creature were in fact inspired by the very real existence of the Titanoboa. In our number 4 spot today, we have Percy's sighting. Percy Fawcett is a famous explorer who is best known for his search for the lost city of Z, but he is also known for his alleged Titanoboa sighting. In 1906, it is said that he was traveling through the Amazon River when he came across a gigantic snake. He didn't even only claim to see it though, he also claimed that he shot it. He said the snake was 65 feet long and that it was at least 1 foot in diameter. After his alleged shot, it is said that the snake sunk back down into the water and out of sight of the explorer. No one is quite sure of what happened to this gigantic snake after its encounter with Percy, but he is said to have had no doubts over what exactly he saw in the river that day. In our number 3 spot today, we have tunnels. There were a couple of adventurers or explorers or whatever you want to call them who went to Peru in search of the Titanoboa. As part of their research, they of course spent time speaking with those local to the area so as to hear their stories of the giant snake in the hopes of maybe getting some insider info on where they could find it. They explained that one night when they camped at a village on the Samaria River, they spent an entire evening listening to these types of stories and they were absolutely astounded. One person explained seeing a 60-foot long snake that was half in the water and half out. After hearing this story, it is said that an elder from the village explained that the giant snakes use underground tunnels in order to move between lakes, which is probably the most terrifying thing I've ever heard, but this could explain why, should the Titanoboa still exist, it is rarely ever seen. In our number 2 spot today, we have the duo. In 2009, a man named Mark Warner and his son Greg traveled from Northern Ireland to the Amazon basin in search of this gigantic snake that legends are made of. They were determined to capture evidence of its existence, and they assembled a team and set out on a mission to prove it. They surveyed their selected areas through aerial views and set off on their adventure. After 12 days in the jungle, surviving through intense weather and taking hundreds of photos and videos, it is said that they did end up capturing a photo of what they claimed to be a huge snake, bigger than any other, measuring around 40 meters or 131 feet long and 2 meters or 6 feet wide. That is an unbelievable size. Many people of course have been a bit suspicious about these claims, but the pair are determined to head back out on another expedition to capture the creature again. It seems as though we might just have to wait again to see if the pair really can pull it off. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Maine monster. This is a snake sighting concerning that comes from Maine, and it has been confusing people ever since. Originally posted on the Facebook page of the Westbrook Police Department, they wrote, quote, "We have received a legitimate report concerning a very large snake present at the Riverbank Park. The report was the snake is as long as a truck and the head the size of a soccer ball. The snake was reportedly observed on the riverbank to the rear of the playground on both the Main Street and Brown Street side of the river." Okay. Definitely not what anyone in the neighborhood wants to hear, especially not from the police page itself, but things only went on to get more concerning. A few days later, an update was posted to the page that included a photo. This photo showed a huge shed snakeskin that looked as though it was shed quite recently. Any snake that thing belongs to has got to be too large for comfort. This went on to create quite a local legend, and rumors about what this humongous creature could be began to spread. While this may not be the largest snake on this list, the proof of its existence certainly is chilling. It is said that people even tested the skin to see what kind of snake it belonged to, and rumor has it that there was in fact some Titanoboa DNA found.
The Titanoboa lived around 60 million years ago and weighed in at about 2,500 pounds, reaching lengths of about 50 feet. Absolute monsters. This was the kind of snake you'd see Conan battling in Frank Frazetta paintings. The way these things would have taken out their prey is similar to how modern boa constrictors do, constricting and choking their enemies to death. These things were so big and bad, they were able to consume massive-sized crocodiles whole. These massive-sized snakes have been long extinct, but that doesn't mean we don't have boas slithering around that tip the scales and come pretty close to being prehistoric in size. No, that's not an animatronic. No, you are not looking at a scene from a new Jurassic Park movie. That's an actual boa that exists in real life. What you're looking at is a 34-foot long, 990-pound anaconda that was discovered at a construction site in Brazil. I think the word discovered is a bit out of place here. Encountered, that's more accurate. That thing would have been impossible to miss. The workers had been carrying out a controlled explosion in the Belo Monte Dam in the northern state of Para when they saw this beast. They ended up having to lift it out of there with construction equipment so they could get back to work. Now, hopefully they didn't kill it. This clip here shows a pan of the boa's gigantic body though. Just unreal. I thought Titanoboas were extinct.
Starting us off at number 10, we're going to be looking at the Arthropleura. They are a few living animals that scare people more than bugs, insects, or spiders. The Arthropleura can probably be an exception to this rule because, well, look at this thing. It's literally a horror movie turned into real life because this creepy crawler actually lived on Earth. I know if this was me, if I saw a centipede, I would be running super fast. I would probably be running faster than Usain Bolt. I don't know if I'd be able to handle seeing an Arthropleura in real life. They're the largest known land invertebrates, and this is of all time, and it is highly unlikely that they had any predators. I mean, would you want to mess with that? No, I didn't think so. They can grow up to lengths of 8.5 feet, and even though they were herbivores, that doesn't make them any less scary. Just looking at all their legs gives me the creep, so let's move on. It's time to take flight. In at number 9, we have the Quetzalcoatlus. This prehistoric beast dominated the skies of North America during the late Cretaceous period. This creature was a type of pterosaur. Not to be confused with a dinosaur, it's a pterosaur. A lot of people believe that the pterodactyl was the most dangerous thing lurking in the skies, but they are sadly mistaken. That honor goes to the Quetzalcoatlus, whose wingspan was around 35 feet and weighed between 450 to 550 pounds, which makes them the largest creature to ever fly. Imagine if these animals were still alive today. They have the ability to pick up a fully grown male, so this would be terrifying. I would never want to leave my house ever again. When this creature is on the ground, it is equivalent to the size of a giraffe. I mean, is this real life right now? Scientists believe that they can reach altitudes of 10,000 feet and glide at speeds of 100 miles per hour. The Smilodon fights its way to number 8. The Smilodon is an extinct saber-toothed cat who lived between 2.5 million years ago to about 10,000 years ago. Just by looking at these images of this prehistoric animal, you can tell that they're pretty vicious. They're about 5 feet long and 3 feet high and weigh in at 440 pounds. But that's not the scary thing about these animals. I mean, just take a look at their teeth. That's enough to give you nightmares for a week. And for me, probably nightmares for the rest of of my life. Their canine teeth would grow up to a foot long, and they had no problems taking down their prey. They would jump down on their prey from the tree branches, sink their teeth into their neck, and then leave its prey to bleed to death. Once they are dead, the Smilodon would return to eat its carcass. Another interesting thing about these creatures is that they're often referred to as a saber-toothed tiger, but they weren't even tigers. They're actually distantly related to lions and cheetahs. Next up, number 7, we have the Gorgonops, whose teeth were too big for its own mouth. I know what you're thinking. This is a pretty scary looking beast. So why wasn't he in the Jurassic Park? Well, he isn't a dinosaur. It is a therapsid who lived 260 million years ago, which is way before the dinosaurs came onto this earth. So their name literally translates to dreadful, and I mean, looking at this picture, I would say this name is pretty damn accurate. These scary looking creatures were about 10 feet long and weighed in at 1,000 pounds. There isn't a lot of information about these animals, but scientists believe that they were a prime predator of their time because they were huge and had very sharp razor-like teeth that could easily slice through their prey. And even though they weren't as big as a dinosaur, they definitely would have scared other animals that lived during their time. Terrifying us in at number 6, we have the Basilosaurus. Their fossils were first discovered in Louisiana, USA in the 1830s, and when the paleontologists were studying their fossils, they initially believed that these creatures were giant reptilian sea monsters, but they later discovered that they were wrong. The Basilosaurus can be translated into king lizard, but evidence shows that they weren't reptiles at all. Actually, they are prehistoric whales. This existed around 34 million years ago, and scientists believe that these creatures slithered into the water like a giant eel, except they were about 60 feet long with powerful back legs and the jaw that can easily snap its victims. And oh yeah, to make things even more interesting, they have a bite force of 3,600 pounds. Thankfully they are extinct because they would probably be hunting humans, but back in the day they loved to hunt fish and sharks in shallow waters.
There was some pretty exciting news in the world of serpents about 6 months back with the discovery of the northern green anaconda in northern and South America. Not only is this a newly discovered snake species, but it may also be one of the largest in the world. If the name sounds familiar to you, then you may be thinking of the southern green anaconda. In 2024, these ones were found to be genetically distinct though. Now, these boas were always known to the local Kalina people, which they called Akayima, but the species had never been documented in the scientific world. That was until 2024, when a group from the University of Queensland set out to search for them. They joined members of the Warani tribe on a 10-day expedition to find the snakes, and what they saw blew the researchers away. Just take a look at this. That is absolutely amazing. I'm very confused as to why the diver is swimming with what looks to be a private school uniform, but I digress. Anyway, biologist Brian Fry, who led the team, was interviewed about the experience, saying one female anaconda they came across was just over 20 feet long, and they were told they can get even bigger, closer to 24 feet. Ever seen that show River Monsters? I feel like this thing deserves an episode all to itself. Here we have footage of a massive sized anaconda taken in the Santa Maria River in Brazil. Now, for some reason, the dudes in the video actually tried to grab this thing with their bare hands. First of all, that's just not cool. You shouldn't be doing that with any wild animal. Just leave the things alone. But second of all, just what in the hell were they thinking, taking their chances messing with something like this? I mean, look at that. It's so gigantic, it doesn't even look like it belongs in this time period. It's prehistorically huge. If I was floating down a river and saw that thing slithering around the water, I wouldn't even think it was a snake. My first thought would be that Loch Ness just showed up. I'd immediately think that monsters are real, my entire worldview would flip on its head, and I'd be tearing out of there long before the thought of touching it with a 20-foot pole, let alone my bare hands, ever entered into my mind. Anyway, each one of these guys rightfully ended up getting a fine for pestering the animal. How would you like to come across any boa constrictor, let alone one the size of this, slithering around right in your backyard? Well, that's exactly what happened to someone in South Florida. Toby's Troop is a YouTube channel ran by two wildlife experts named Taylor and Rhett, who specialize in rescuing rare or fully invasive species in South Florida. They also do house calls, removing venomous snakes from people's backyards. So when they received a call about a big python in someone's yard, it seemed like it was going to be another typical day for them. What they weren't expecting to find, though, was a huge boa instead. They described it as the biggest boa constrictor either of them had ever seen. It was strange because boas aren't an established invasive species in South Florida. How it got there was, and still is, a total mystery. What you're looking at here is the largest living snake in captivity today, Medusa, a reticulated python measuring 25 feet and 2 inches long, weighing in at 350 pounds. Yes, it's not a boa. I threw on a couple big snakes that aren't boas. If that's something that's gonna ruin your whole day, then I'm sorry. Medusa is owned by Full Moon Productions in Kansas City. Not to be confused with the straight-to-video horror movie production company Full Moon Features. This is Full Moon Productions. They run haunted houses. I don't think that was information any of you were asking for and probably didn't need clarifying, but here we are. Anyway, big snake, reticulated pythons are native to Southeast Asia, and they're some of the longest snakes in the entire world. Medusa gets fed a healthy diet of rabbits, hogs, and deer on a bi-weekly basis. Staff at the Edge of Hell haunted house where she's currently housed say that she purrs like a cat when she's happy and hisses when she's angry. Ever seen a video that just makes your whole body involuntarily shudder? Just like, this is one of those videos. This is horrific. Check it out. This video was taken in India on a farmer's property. The dude came across this gargantuan monster eating one of his cows whole. Yeah, that bulge in the middle of the snake, that is an entire cow. Anyway, the farmer ended up lassoing the snake to get it off his property. I'm kind of mad I had to do this video today because I know I'm just gonna wake up at 3 a.m. with one of those gross snake nightmares, and then I'm gonna feel like there's one crawling around in my bed, and I'm gonna be all icked out for the rest of the night, and then I'll be a zombie all of tomorrow. Anyway, I'm just glad I could pass that gift on to all of you. I hope you're all glad that you clicked today. And now we truck over to Indonesia to watch a terrifying encounter with a gigantic python captured on camera. This happened on November 22nd of 2018. Now, if you're wondering why these dudes are wrestling with the serpents, they're not doing it to show how macho they are. They're not doing it for internet clout. This snake had wrapped itself around an innocent villager and they were trying to wrestle the beast off of them. Fortunately, in the end, they were able to, but not without a serious fight. So they'd been walking by and spotted what they thought was just a log until it started moving. The snake got defensive, leading to an altercation. One guy ended up getting caught in the python's death grip, but with the help of 5 other dudes, they were able to get him free. The Cuban boa. This snake is a real giant and one of the most impressive snakes you'll find in the Caribbean. It's native to Cuba, hence the name, and it's not just big, it's also very intimidating. These things can climb. They're semi-arboreal. Imagine that thing grabbing you from up in a tree. The Cuban boa can grow up to 13 feet long on average, but they've been known to reach up to 18 feet as well. Like all boas, they're non-venomous and instead have a thick, muscular body that helps them constrict their prey. These boas are mostly found in Cuba's forests and swamps, and they're pretty good at blending into their surroundings. Their coloration can vary from dark brown to olive green, which helps them camouflage in the leaves and branches. This makes them very effective hunters. They usually prey on birds, small mammals, and other animals that they can overpower with their constriction. Luckily, though, they generally avoid humans and would rather hide from us than confront us. But if you're exploring the Cuban wilderness, good idea to be aware these guys are around and just give them plenty of space. They're gonna need it. Finally, though, we have the king cobra. You want scary snakes? This is a scary snake. Not only are king cobras incredibly venomous, but they can get massive too. These are the longest venomous snakes in the entire world, with the largest ones reaching lengths of up to 18.5 feet. The biggest king cobra on record, though, 19.2 feet. So you're getting the best of both worlds here, or is it the worst? You take your pick. You get the size of a boa mixed with a deadly venomous bite. So that's just great. What's even crazier about these guys is they don't even go after the type of prey you typically imagine with other snakes, rodents. No, these things will often prey on other snakes, including members of their own species. That's about as cold-blooded as it gets. Animals that eat each other, just always disturbing. I don't know why nature spawns animals like this, but they do.
Slithering into number 5 spot, we're talking about the Titanoboa. For those of you who are terrified of snakes, yeah, it's time to get pretty terrified with this one. The Titanoboa is the largest snake that ever existed. They reach lengths of 50 feet and weigh 2,000 pounds. So to put that into perspective for you guys, they are twice as long and 4 times as heavy as the modern day giant anaconda. Paleontologists say that the Titanoboa hunted a lot like crocodiles do. They would lurk in the water and go near the water's edge so they could attack unsuspecting thirsty animals. They would strike their prey from the water and wrap themselves around them, crushing them to death, and they would put their massive jaws around them. This prehistoric snake lived in the jungles of South America 5 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct. Let's just say that I'm glad that the Titanoboa went extinct, because I don't think that humans and this monster could, coexist. Chopping its way into number 4, we have the Spinosaurus. The name is derived from its 7-foot long spines, and it lived about 100 million years ago during the Cretaceous period. This terrifying creature is the largest carnivorous dinosaur that ever roamed the earth. Yep, that means that they were even bigger than the Tyrannosaurus rex. They could grow over 50 feet long, 20 feet high, and weigh in at 6 tons. One of its most distinctive features was this huge spine on their backs. These spines can grow up to 5 feet tall, and the Spinosaurus uses this as a way to intimidate other predators and also to show off to a potential mate. Yeah, I think that would be highly effective. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to get into a fight with one of these things if they're still around. Fighting its way in at number 3, we have the Mosasaurus. This aquatic Godzilla-looking like creature was not a dinosaur. Technically, the Mosasaurus was a meat-eating reptile. It lurked in the waters of the North Atlantic Ocean. The largest Mosasaurus species grow over 50 feet long, and they lived at the surface of the water in order to breathe air. They would basically feed on whatever was edible or any animal that was unfortunate enough to cross their paths. This meant that they ate fish, also plesiosaurs, and even other Mosasaurus. Let's take a look at their mouths. They had terrifying jaws. They actually have a second pair of teeth in its upper palate so that the prey that was able to slide down their throats wouldn't be able to escape, and their jaws could expand to help swallow their prey whole. I mean, what? Their closest living relatives are the Komodo dragon and monitor lizards. Stomping its way, number 2, we have the Giganotosaurus. It roamed Argentina during the late Cretaceous period, which was about 97 million years ago, and it is known as one of the largest meat-eating dinosaurs. These scary-looking beasts were 40 to about 43 feet long, weighed nearly 14 tons, and had very sharp teeth. These guys walked upright on 2 large and powerful legs, and they might have been very agile because of their tail. The Giganotosaurus didn't really have any natural predators because of its size, and they had the capability of killing any live prey that crossed their paths. They had flat, serrated teeth that were also helpful when they would slice through the flesh of their prey. There is even evidence to suggest that these dinosaurs were pack hunters and they would hunt in large groups. Okay, finally making its way to number 1, we've saved the beast for last. We're talking about the massive Megalodon. This prehistoric monster makes the great white shark look like a goldfish. Luckily for humans, this beast went extinct 2.6 million years ago. The Megalodon was the largest predator that ever lived. Paleontologists predicted that the Megalodon can grow up to 60 feet and weigh over 60 tons. Oh, did I mention that their teeth can grow over 7 inches long? The Megalodon's diet mainly consists of whale and other large sea creatures. They had a bunch of savage hunting strategies such as ripping apart and biting off their prey's fins in order to immobilize them so that they can attack them from below. They had a bite force of 10.8 to 18.2 tons, which was way more than enough to easily crush the skull of a prehistoric whale. So you must be wondering, wondering, how did this large predator go extinct? Well, no one knows for certain, but scientists believe that their population decreased due to global cooling, or by the decline in the population of the giant whales, which made up the bulk of their diet. But some people still theorize that the Megalodon still could lurk at the bottom of our oceans. I mean, a big percent of it, we don't even know what's down there. So next time you're considering going deep in the ocean, you might want to think twice about what could be lurking below. It could be the Megalodon.
Starting us off at number 10 is Megalodon, a shark. Alright, I know I said these would put a shark to shame, but that means we just have to start with a shark. This is the big one, you know what I'm talking about, the Megalodon. So its size was 40 feet minimum and a maximum of 50 to 70 feet. For comparison, a bus is 45 feet long, so it's way bigger than a school bus. Some estimates say the Megalodon ate 2,500 pounds of food a day, and that included fish and whales. Their teeth were built for breaking bone, and their jaw was so strong it could exert a bite of up to 40,000 pounds of force. Yeah, while the great white shark of today targets the soft underside of prey, the Megalodon probably went straight for the chest to pierce the heart and lungs of its prey. While there is no proof at all that the Megalodon exists today, as there are larger whales and creatures like that thriving, there is also no evidence that definitively points to its extinction. So I'll leave you to do your own research on that one. Investigate. You never know. At number 9, we are staying in the scary waters with Basilosaurus. So, Basilosaurus means king lizard, and this is odd because it is a fully aquatic mammal, but it was given the name when it was thought to be a reptile. While it is too late to change its official name, I propose we call it a snake. Hopefully the cute name lessens the amount of fear running into one would give me. So the Basilosaurus lived around 40 million years ago. It could grow to 60 feet long and probably swim like an eel because of its tiny little flukes. But don't let the little flukes fool ya. It was the largest meat eater of its time. Look at the teeth on that thing. I bet it could have swallowed a submarine whole, honestly. Just all of these I wouldn't want to run into. I'll probably mention that more. Yeah. Moving on to number 8, Pterygotus. So ever wonder what a distant ancestor of the modern day crab was like? Well, get ready, because it was a giant water scorpion over 12 feet long. They were around 420 to 400 million years ago. Their remains are mainly found in Europe, but some have also been found in North America. So this crabby guy was probably an ambush hunter waiting for its prey and then striking. It was capable of really fast bursts of speed and would use that skill in its attack. It would tear apart victims and then force the meat into its mouth with its mandibles. It is also said to have the stinger the size of a light bulb, and it's at the end of its long flat tail. I can't even deal with scorpions in real life, or crabs for that matter, and those are really small, so needless to say I'd be done for in this case. Plus it's like more than twice the size of me. I'd just be done. At number 7, we have the Liopleurodon. About 150 million years ago, you could have run into this guy. It was a huge, carnivorous marine reptile that lived in the seas that used to be over Europe. They were an apex predator, about 7 meters long and weighing in at over 3,000 pounds. Its head looks like a dinosaur-crocodile mix, but as its forefins show, this beast roamed underwater. Their teeth are what I find the most gnarly about them. They are sharp and jagged and look like they could absolutely shred through anything, including me. Yeah. At number 6, we have Ambulocetus. So it's a prehistoric whale that was amphibious, and yes, it had arms and legs. And if you're like, what, a whale with arms and legs? That is what I thought too, but this guy was evidence of a transitory period between land-living mammals and whales, aka proof that whales evolved from land creatures. That's why they're mammals and they breathe air. Boom. So Ambulocetus was the size of a male sea lion and most likely remained solely in the water and fed similarly to crocodiles, as in they probably killed their prey by holding it in its jaw and either drowning it or thrashing it in violent motions. Fun. If you run into a crocodile, punch it in the nose or like put your fingers in its nose so it can't breathe, and then it'll let go so it can breathe through its mouth. Pro tip.
Starting us off with number 10 is the Titanoboa. Now there were so many pronunciations to this one, I was like, what do I choose? But then Charlotte over on IO said it was like that, so I'm gonna trust her. Titanoboa. I'm gonna trust her. Now I'm sure you guys have all heard about this creature. This now extinct reptile was monstrous and the largest, longest and heaviest species of snake that ever lived. They could grow up to 50 feet long and weigh up to 2,500 pounds, which is no joke. And it wasn't even their weight or length, they were just thick. Like with 2 C's, like they weren't skinny snakes, they were girthy and thick. They were mostly found in present-day northeastern Colombia and date back 58 to 60 million years ago. Now they spent most of their time underwater or around the trees, and their dull coloring allowed them to be super camouflaged very easily. Their diet consisted of giant crocodiles, turtles, birds, and basically anything they fancied eating that day, because They could. They had rows of teeth lining their upper and lower jaws, and since they weren't venomous, they would either constrict their prey or block their windpipe. Now, no one actually knows why the Titanoboa went extinct. One theory is that it was due to climate change, which I mean, great, because it's gonna happen to us as well, so we'll be right there with you. Either way, let's not bring back this enormous snake because I'm surrounded by too many snakes already. Can't deal with anymore. Mic drop. Coming in at number 9 is the Spinosaurus, also known as the spine lizard and one of the largest carnivorous dinosaurs to ever exist. It was dubbed the spine lizard because of the giant protruding spine it had that sort of looks like a fish's dorsal fin. These creatures existed about 112 to 93.5 million years ago and were found in present-day North Africa. They were bigger than the T-Rex even and could grow up to 40 to 60 feet in length and weighed nearly 21 tons. They were the biggest out there in terms of diet. They mostly ate big sea animals like sharks, swordfish, lungfish, and crocodiles. Since it's literally called the Spinosaurus, obviously I have to talk about their spines, like come on. Their neural spines were more than 5 feet long, which let them move in the water very easily, sort of like a sail. Now their dorsal fin was mostly dense bone and it was used to absorb heat, store fat, and regulate body temperature, kind of like a camel. Like what is this dinosaur? It's a camel-fish hybrid, but bigger than a T-Rex that could kill you and your whole family in a second, so it's like, I'm getting a lot of mixed signals right now. I don't know what to think. At number 8, we have the Andrewsarchus. The name of this one is just so funny. Like Andrewsarchus, like it sounds like the final boss of those frat boys that will sue you. And now you must fight Andrewsarchus of Delta Upsilon chapter boss. Anyway, now that I'm done on this creature, let's actually speak facts. This creature existed around 45 to 36 million years ago in what is now present day Inner Mongolia. They honestly looked like very ugly wolf-hyena hybrids, except just a lot bigger. Their skulls were massive and had snouts attached that basically consisted of 60% of their entire face. Like its face alone was 32.8 inches long. That's a big face. Based on the skull alone, it was declared the largest meat-eating land mammal to ever exist. They weighed anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kgs and were just huge, savage dogs. Since we've never found a complete skeleton of one, it's hard to tell what the rest of their bodies would look like, but what we do know is that we're at the top of the food chain right now, and if they were around, that's our number 1 spot just gone. And we don't need that. Filling our number 7 slot is the Deinosuchus, which literally translates to terrible crocodile in Greek. Now crocodiles are already scary enough, but just imagine the biggest crocodile you can think of. Yeah, the Deinosuchus was bigger than that too. These creatures roamed the earth 82 to 73 million years ago and used to live on both sides of the Western Interior Seaway, which was this inland sea that used to divide North America but now obviously doesn't. Despite being named terrible crocodile, they were actually more closely related to alligators. Who the f knows the difference between them anyway? When I was young, I actually thought crocodiles were the male versions and alligators were the female versions of the species, and I don't know any better now. They grew up to 40 feet long and weighed about 10 tons. If you can see this picture right here, oh dear god. Now this is a comparison of a Deinosuchus skull and a regular alligator skull. Does that give you more of an idea of how huge I'm talking when I say this thing was huge? Like they're not playing around. I feel like my whole body could fit in that mouth. Anyway, in terms of diet, they mostly ate other large dinosaurs, smaller dinosaurs, large aquatic dinosaurs, and turtles. Have you seen the jaw? It could eat my whole family if it wanted to. Nope. Nah, B. We're not getting you back. Bye-bye. Stay extinct? No. Now at number 6 is the Dunkleosteus. Now off the bat, this one doesn't look scary, but believe me, it is. It lived on Earth around 358 to 382 million years ago and was actually an aquatic creature. The largest fossil ever found was nearly 20 feet long and weighed about a ton. Looks-wise, they were very interesting. They had armored bodies, and instead of teeth, they had 2 sharp bony plates that made it look like it had a beak. And the face of it really reminds me of a Pokemon that I can't remember the name of. Please tell me if you know it down below. And I know having teeth sounds scarier, but don't be mistaken, the Dunkleosteus could open and clamp its jaw closed in as little as 50 milliseconds, and their bite force was 612 kgs at the tip and 755 kgs at the edge. Their beak was essentially designed to break into the same kind of armor that covered their own bodies, and that means they were either cannibalistic or they fought each other for territory. Either way, we never trust a hoe that eats its own. Never ever. No. If you betray your own, what are we gonna do with you? In terms of diet, they ate anything they encountered in the water, to be honest, and the other fish would have just seen it coming and the dude's beak would have already opened and closed and just KO. Before you even know what's going on, you're done. It's biting your head off. Unlucky. Too slow. You snooze, you lose.
On to number 5, Mosasaurus. So this one is known as the lizard of the Moose River. It got the name after being the first specimen found near that river. It lived in the seas of Europe and North America, and it lived 70 to 66 million years ago. It caught fish, birds, other marine reptiles, and even sharks. It had a second set of teeth that latched onto their prey to ensure that they didn't get away, and it was just under 60 feet long on average, so huge. At number 4, we have Zygophyseter. So this one was like a sperm whale or a killer sperm whale. It had a bulb like a beluga, most likely that would let it do echolocation, like one of those jiggly melon heads. So as a prehistoric predatory whale, it had teeth in the upper and lower jaws, which is unlike today's large species like the sperm whale that just have the teeth in the lower jaw. The teeth were also rooted deep in the jaw, and they had a cone shape, which is one of the hallmarks of being a predator. Therefore, Zygophyseter probably went after large and powerful prey. So imagine this roaming the waters, and you think it's a whale because its body looks like a nice chill animal, but then you see the face and it's nothing but teeth. Boom, it bites into a smaller whale and then a shark, and that's just absolutely wild to me. When I think whales, I think cute, fun, but no, not this one. At number 3, we have a giant ground sloth. And I know what you're thinking, sloth? Giant one would be pretty cute. Just like the one in that video where it gave someone a flower. Oh, a gift. But not this big one. The Megatherium, or giant ground sloth, lived in South America about 10,000 years ago. It weighed up to 4 tons and was about the size of an elephant. Yeah, picture that. While it was a leaf-eating lovely herbivore, it still wasn't safe. Just take a peek at those claws. And while there are depictions of it with fur or hair, since we associate that with sloths, they were most likely hairless. Like elephants, with mass comes more heat, and these giant ground sloths were probably prone to overheating. And to do that, they had to become hairless, and they probably looked a little bit like a sloth if you mixed it with a hairless cat. Moving on to number 2, Helicoprion. This was a shark-like eugenodontid holocephalid fish. All those fancy words are to say it had this scary looking tooth whorl. They are clusters of teeth coming out of it, and it was basically a tooth factory. Scientists had to make guesses on the anatomy and behavior of the animal because they didn't recover a full fossil of the being, which makes sense because it lived in the ocean so long ago, 290 million years ago. Today the closest living relative is the chimera, and that is a creepy looking fish too. But lastly, at number 1, we have the Titanoboa. So the anaconda pales in comparison to this bad boy. The Titanoboa snake lived deep in the South American jungle 60 million years ago, and thank goodness. It would snap a victim's neck in half with just one swift move. And what was the victim this creature found? Anything it pleased. It grew up to 50 feet long with a ribcage that was on average 2 feet wide. It could eat a whole crocodile if it wanted to. The muscles around the ribcage were so strong they could crush a rhino. Also, while scientists aren't sure how it killed, they agreed on one thing. It ate its prey whole. It stayed in muddy waters most of the time, where its brown skin would camouflage it nicely, and it also probably stayed there because it weighed so much the force of gravity could cause it to suffocate under its own weight.
Coming in at number 5 is the Haast's eagle. I know we still have other species of eagles around, but this one really takes the cake. Now, these eagles became extinct after 1400 and were mostly found in the South Island of New Zealand. In Maori folklore, the Haast's eagle was accepted and looked at as this monstrous bird. It was the largest eagle to ever grace the earth, and they were even larger than the largest living vultures. They grew large because their prey, the flightless moa, was massive and could grow up to 510 pounds, so I mean, you need to be big yourself if you're gonna eat and kill something of that size, let's be real. Size-wise, they were about 22 to 33 pounds with wingspans of 8 to 10 feet, and that doesn't seem that big because, I mean, it wasn't. However, it lent to it being fast as hell, and they would attack at speeds of up to 80 kilometers an hour. Now, the force of its attack would be the equivalent of a concrete block falling from an 8-story building. Specific, I know, but I mean, it would literally pierce the out of its prey, and it's even said that it used to pick up Maori babies and kill them. This bird is out here abducting babies. No remorse whatsoever, stone cold killer. You can't have that around the kids. It's gonna suit me away in a second. At number 4 is the short-faced bear. Now, I've never actually seen a regular bear that's not extinct, but from what I've heard from everyone at the office, they are absolutely lethal, which I never would have thought before because the bears are usually very cute and cuddly, but no, these mofos will run after you and kill you, damn it. So with that in mind, the short-faced bear existed up until 11,000 years ago, so I mean, it's the most recently extinct one on the list, you could say. They were found mostly in North America, California specifically, and their faces aren't actually shorter, they just have deeper snouts and shorter nasal regions than other species. But that made their bite force more lethal than any normal bear, including grizzlies. Either way, these short-faced bears were humongous. The largest one ever weighed 2,110 pounds. Like, what? what? An average one would be 8 to 10 feet standing up, but the larger ones would be 12 feet standing and could run at speeds of 40 miles per hour. Like, these bears are no damn joke. Diet-wise, they were omnivores. They would eat basically depending on availability, but they needed 35 pounds of meat a day, so if they existed right now, we'd be like a free walking stir fry for them. Just pick whichever one you want, eat it up, chase after it. Doesn't matter. There's 7 other billion of us. Eat us up. It's fine. We can take the hit. We're overpopulating anyway. Filling our number 3 slot is the Smilodon, more commonly known as the saber-toothed cat. Now, they were around up until 10,000 years ago, so they've now taken over the bears as the most recent animal on this list, and they overlapped with early humans. They were found mostly in the Americas, and they were more robustly built than any other feline. They had incredibly developed forelimbs and long-ass upper canine teeth, and the longest recorded being 11 inches. The bigger ones were about 500 to 900 pounds and the smaller ones were about 350 to 650 pounds. The saber-toothed cat was a hyper carnivore, so I don't even have to tell you what that means, and on top of that, they hunted in packs. So let's just say if they existed, we definitely would not. Okay. Now at number 2 is the mega piranha. Come on you guys, piranhas are a real threat. And a mega piranha? Say less, my friend, say less. Now they were around about 8 to 10 million years ago and swam around the region of present day Argentina. They were bigger than the piranhas we have now. They were about 28 inches long and weighed 20 to 30 pounds. The ones we have now weigh about 2 pounds, so you can imagine the difference. They're just babies. They're just not mega, let's be real, they're beta at best. Either way, they ate things like crocodiles, snakes, and fish. Like, can you imagine this little fish eating a crocodile, which back then would have been huge as well? The mega piranha could exert a force that was up to 50 times its own weight, meaning it could crush a car in its mouth if we were to experiment. And honey, if it's crushing a car, it's crushing your skull. End of story. And finally, at number 1 is the Megalodon. I feel like there was absolutely no doubt or contest about what number 1 was gonna be. The Meg, you guys. The Meg. Meg. Dun-dun. Dun-dun. I hope you liked my performance. That is what a current day Megalodon would act like and be like. Now none of the animals on this list would win against the Megalodon, and they're all already apex predators in their own right. The Meg was around 23 to 3.6 million years ago, and to simplify, it is the biggest shark you could possibly think of. They reached up to 60 feet long at the largest, but even the small ones were still 35 feet long. Their bite alone could exert 11,216 to 18,500 kilograms of force. Their teeth would straight up just break your bones. For comparison, great whites attack from the soft underside of their prey's bellies, whereas the Meg would just break through the chest cavity and puncture the lung, like we're just going straight for the jugular. The bigger ones would eat things like whales, seals, and sea turtles, whereas the little ones would eat smaller whales. I already have such a massive phobia of sharks. You guys know this if you've been watching for a while. I barely go into any body of water already, but if scientists brought back megalodons, I would never step into the ocean again. I don't even give a damn. Even if they were only found like 1,000 miles away from me, I would still not step into the ocean. Like, if those things came back, that would be the start of the end of marine life. Like, it's over for us all at that point. Sea travel, not a thing anymore. Cruises, bye bye. Scuba diving, sayonara. Me? Gone. Somewhere in the ether. We're not here anymore. And that's it for today's video, guys. Now, it always blows my mind how big animals used to be. Like, they've shrunk so much since all those epics. I'm like, alrighty then. Now I wonder if in 10,000 years they're gonna get even smaller. Do you think so? I don't know. Tell me in the comments below. Also, let me know what you thought of the video below. As always, I'm your host, Ayman Hassan. I'm sorry I wasn't full energy. I will be back to you guys soon, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. Viewer discretion advised. It's about disturbing real-life demon photos that you won't believe are real, but have been confirmed by the Pope himself. Click the video now to find out more. See you guys in the next video.